The heart is not a pump. Part 4. It was always supposed, until Harvey discovered that the blood circulated, that it was dammed up in the heart and run out when the veins were opened. That discovery throwed great light on the cause of disease and of the motion of the animal system. The cause of that circulation has not hitherto been satisfactorily accounted for. On this important point, in regard to the working of the living machine, little or no improvement has been made since his time, notwithstanding the multitude of talent engaged in exploring the physiological field. The idea that the heart exerts the power demanded to force the blood through all the ramifications of the veins and arteries of the system is subjected to a great difficulty. The question has often been asked if, admitting the heart moves the blood, what moves the heart? To this question, no answer has been given that will bear the test of philosophical reasoning. This science, however, offers a solution to this question, which is not susceptible of being driven to such an unpleasant extremity. It is well known that the air we breathe is composed of about 20 parts of oxygen and about 80 of nitrogen. These are the proportions by weight. The air also contains electricity as well as carbon and hydrogen, but it is principally composed of oxygen and nitrogen. The air is drawn into the lungs in its compound state when a chemical separation of its parts takes place. The nitrogen passes off while the oxygen is retained. The oxygen is the principle of flame and of animal life, while nitrogen extinguishes both. The nitrogen being disengaged, the oxygen immediately creates animal heat in the system. It is a fact that the greatest portion of the air we inspire is thrown off at every breath of exhalation, that it is the nitrogen that is thus expired by the lungs. This experiment proves. Confine a person in an airtight vessel or room, and he will expire as soon as he breathes all the air once over, which the vessel or room contains. The oxygen having been consumed and the nitrogen remaining alone, which cannot be inhaled without producing the result. But as the air contains electricity and is taken into the lungs at every inspiration, they are therefore rendered continually positive. That portion of the food called chyle, which is refined by digestion and separated from that part not necessary to sustain it, is in a negative relation to the lungs. It is therefore attracted to the lungs, and through its natural channel finds its way to them on the principle that the negative and the positive come together. Here then commences the circulation. It there comes in contact with the air and is immediately oxidized and electrified and colored cherry red. This blood has now become positive, and as two positives resist each other, the lungs also being positive and stationary, the blood must be thrown out of the lungs, which is instantly done, and it is forced upon the left ventricle of the heart, through which it passes on the principle of attraction. It being positive in relation to the entire system beyond the heart, is carried through the arteries to the extremities of the system, until its course cannot be distinctly traced. the arteries running off into so many thousands of little capillaries or absorbing vessels. The veins begin just where the arteries end, in as many little absorbing vessels. I say begin, because at these extremities the blood enters the veins. The blood now has become negative, having given off its electrical charge received at the lungs by the friction produced from its rapid motion through the arteries. This has been taken up by the nerves, for which they have a strong affinity, and carried to the brain, their source, and is used by it to perform all the functions of life and motion. There is a nerve laid along each artery, no nerves connected with the veins. The venous blood, therefore, negative, and according to the principle that the negative and the positive come together, it is attracted back to the lungs through the veins. The venous blood cannot be used to supply the natural decay of decomposition of the system, although it still contains the properties adapted to the reproduction of the various parts of it. The reason of this is the fact that the agent by which these particles were selected from the blood and conveyed to and deposited upon these various parts has escaped from the blood in the manner already described. Venous blood must therefore come in contact with atmospheric air again, and there receive another charge of electricity before it possesses the power of nourishing the body. I should have remarked that the portion of electricity contained in arterial blood, and through whose agencies the particles it contains are conveyed to different parts of the system, also carries off the decomposed particles of matter from the surface of the body, and is the subtle fluid which keeps the pores of the skin open and carries on what is called invisible perspiration. Arterial blood is cherry red, but venous blood is dark. The veins and the arteries are so colored in a good drawing of an anatomy. The blood is colored by electricity in the lungs. There is iron in the blood. There is also iron in electricity in its expanded state, the two coming together on the principle of chemical affinity. The blood is instantly colored red. The superabundance of the electrical fluid the arterial blood contained, having escaped from it, leaves venous blood of a darker appearance. To prove that it is electricity which produces these changes, open a vein and draw out of it a vessel of its contents, and it is of a dark color. Charge it, then, with a stream of electricity from the galvanic battery, and it immediately assumes the cherry-red color of arterial blood. Hence it is perfectly conclusive that the blood through all the ramifications of the veins and arteries is circulated on the principle of attraction and repulsion. All the repulsion, however, which takes place is at the lungs, where the two positives resist each other. All its other motion throughout the system is attraction. The blood, in returning to the lungs, passes through the right ventricle of the heart. These two ventricles answer a most important purpose in keeping the two kinds of blood apart. If a fleshy tube could be inserted in the heart, connecting the right and left ventricles, the negative and positive blood would rush together, neutralizing each other. All motion would immediately cease, and death be the inevitable result. The cause of the motion of the heart is perfectly obvious upon the principle here advanced. The positive blood, being attracted through the left ventricle of the heart, moves it as it rushes through it in the same direction it is moving, coming back again to the lungs and passing through the right ventricle of the heart, moves it in the same direction it is travelling, which is the opposite direction in which it was moved by the positive or arterial blood. The valve closing prevents its return. After having passed through both ventricles in opposite direction, moves it in opposite directions, and hence the heart beats. The heart may be considered the regulator of the system. The theory, therefore, that the heart exerts the requisite power demanded to circulate the blood, which is said to be that of 1,000 horse, is perfectly exploded or superseded by a better. If it be answered to the question, what moves the heart, supposing it to be a missile of sufficient power to circulate the blood, that the Creator moves it, he must do it in one of two ways. He must come in direct contact with the heart and move it, which would be impossible. He could not move the hearts of all men and animals in this manner, or it must be moved indirectly and in accordance with the laws of the animal economy, which is the principle here contended for, and the agent or law capable of producing this effect introduced.